On the orbital city of Vastal Ring, everything looked controlled. The central plaza shone with pale tiles. Cleaning drones swept away every scrap of dirt. Air vents hummed softly, releasing cold, sterile oxygen. Students crossed the space in straight lines. Uniforms perfect, boots polished, badges aligned. Nothing looked out of place. Nothing was allowed to, except in the shadow of a support pillar. There, a small alien girl knelt on the floor. Her skin was a soft leaf green, mottled with faint pale spots along her arms. Her long white hair was uneven, hacked off in crooked pieces. The cheap dorm-issued wrap hung wrong on her shoulders, too big, slipping down one side. Her food lay scattered across the tile. Crushed grain chips. A burst nutrient packet smeared into a sticky orange stain. A few curls of fried spice sticks, stepped on until they were almost powder. A ring of children stood around her. Their uniforms were flawless. Their badges gleamed. Their faces were calm, almost bored. One boy nudged her hand with his boot. "Eat it," he said. "That's all you get." A taller girl folded her arms. "Go on," she added. "The dorm brats don't have parents to complain. Everyone knows you're unclaimed." The little alien's fingers trembled over the dirty food. Her name was Leary, but no one used it. Her stomach ached with hunger, but her chest hurt more. Shame. Fear. The feeling that she was less than everyone else on the plaza. She glanced toward the teachers on duty. They saw. They looked away. Then the rhythm of the plaza changed. Heavy footsteps echoed along the edge. Jace Orlon, human load supervisor, walked off his shift early. He still wore his dark rigging harness unbuckled at his sides. Faint rail dust streaked his boots. His forearms were marked with pale strap lines from safety gear. He was thinking only about a quick meal and a quiet ride home. Until he saw the circle, the girl on the floor. The way her body was already curled in, braced for a blow. Something in his chest tightened like a cable under load. He changed direction without thinking. The boy saw him first. His smug expression drained into stiffness. The others turned, hesitation breaking their perfect confidence as the tall human closed in. Jay stopped beside them. He didn't shout. His voice was low, controlled. "Stand up," he said. The boy didn't move. Jace's patience ended. He grabbed the back of the boy's collar and lifted him a few centimeters off the ground. Not violently, just enough to show how easily he could move him. He set the boy aside as if he were a crate that needed relocating. The ring of children broke instantly. Leary flinched, expecting that the blow was coming from him now. Her shoulders curled tighter. Her fingers hovered over the food, frozen. Jace crouched down so his eyes were level with hers. His harness creaked softly. "Hey," he said. His voice stayed even, not sharp. "Look at me." She hesitated, then lifted her gaze, pupils wide with fear. "You don't eat off the floor," he said. "Not here. Not anywhere." Her voice came out as a rasp. "They said I have to." "You don't," he replied. He pressed a thin meal credit into her palm. The small slab of encoded plastic warmed under her fingers. She stared at it like it was something that belonged to someone else. Then he shrugged off his work jacket, dark and worn, still warm from his body, and carrying the faint scent of cheap morning coffee. He draped it over her shoulders. It nearly swallowed her whole. Her breathing slowly steadied under the weight of it. Jace straightened and scanned the remaining kids. His stare was quiet, but there was iron in it. "Leave," he said. They scattered. No one argued. The plaza continued as if nothing had happened. But for Leary, the world had already shifted. Leary tried to shrink against the wall, clutching the jacket with small shaking hands. She kept expecting someone to drag her back into the open. "Come on," Jace said gently. "You need food that isn't scraped off tile." She stood uncertainly, legs wobbly, then followed him at a careful distance, one step behind. They crossed the plaza. Students pretended not to stare. A few whispered, but no one stepped in. The food tier smelled like real life. Grilled meat, fresh bread, thick broth. 100 different spice traces tangled in the air. Jace ordered a bowl of rich stew and a thick slice of pan bread. The vendor glanced at Leary with obvious reluctance, but when Jace paid without blinking, the man said nothing. They sat at the counter. Leary perched on the edge of the stool, ready to bolt. "Eat," Jace said. She took a tiny bite, as if expecting someone to yank the bowl away at any moment. The warmth hit her tongue. Real flavor. Real food. Her grip on the spoon tightened. "How long since you had something like that?" he asked. She lifted one shoulder. "Not sure." Dorm staff feed you. Sometimes, she whispered. There's a lot of us. Anyone check on you? Silence. Then, no. Jace saw the fading bruise on her arm, the defensive curl of her shoulders, the way she jumped at a laugh from another table even though it had nothing to do with her. She had been surviving alone. When the bowl was clean, he walked her back to the dorm wing. The corridor smelled of metal polish, disinfectant, and recycled air. Kids moved quickly, eyes down, pretending not to see each other. Leary stopped at the threshold. Why did you help me? She asked. Jace hesitated, then gave the only answer that felt right. Because someone should have. Her fingers clutched his jacket tighter. You coming back? He surprised himself by saying, without pause, yeah, I'll check on you tomorrow. Her breath caught. Okay. The dorm door slid shut behind her with a soft mechanical click. Later, Jace stepped into his own small apartment on the residential ring. The light strips brightened. Mara, his partner, stood at the kitchen counter, slicing root vegetables. Her house tunic was loose at one shoulder, feet bare on the cool floor. You're late, she said. Not angry, just tired. Got held up, he answered, dropping his boots near the door. She frowned slightly. By what? He told her. The plaza. The circle of kids. The girl on the floor with green skin and empty eyes. The way the teachers looked away. Mara's expression hardened in that specific way, a mix of old anger and deep exhaustion. They made a kid eat off the ground, and no one stopped it? She asked. Except me, Jace said quietly. And I only saw it because I was hungry. She set the knife down. And now? He looked at the empty space on the hook where his jacket should be. It's on her, he said. I told her I'd check on her tomorrow. Mara leaned against the counter, arms folded, wrestling with something inside herself. Why her, she asked. Because if I'd walked away, he said, I wouldn't sleep tonight. Silence settled between them. The hum of the vents was suddenly loud. Finally, Mara sighed, the sharpness in her shoulders easing just a bit. Then tomorrow, she said, we check on her together. Jace woke before the alarm. He lay staring at the ceiling, mind already running. Images of Leary on the tile kept replaying. Beside him, Mara shifted, then opened one eye. You're up early, she murmured. Can't stop thinking about that kid, he said. Then we go see her before your shift, Mara replied, sitting up. Morning's quieter. Fewer eyes. He stared at her. You're sure? Her gaze was steady. I've been ignoring what happens in those dorm wings for too long. You dragged it into the light. We don't put it back. They ate fast. Steamed roots. Warm-seeded bread. Cheap bitter coffee. Then they left, moving through nearly empty corridors toward the lower tiers. The dorm hall felt colder than yesterday. The air buzzed with restless kids' voices. A tired attendant opened the door, uniform wrinkled, eyes dull. Can I help you? We're here to check on a girl, Mara said. Leary, from your dorm. The attendant hesitated. She should be getting ready for class. Then we won't take long, Mara replied. Leary appeared at the far end of the hall, wearing Jace's oversized jacket like a shield. Her hair was badly brushed, but someone had at least tried. Her thin legs stuck out from under the school wrap. Same scuffed shoes. She froze when she saw them. Her expression was confusion, fear, and something like fragile relief. You came back, she whispered. Of course, Jace said. Mara knelt, softening her voice. Did you sleep at all? I had a dream the bed fell, Leary said. Then it was loud. But the jacket was warm. Mara smiled faintly. We brought you something. She pulled a small silver thread hair tie from her bag. For your hair. If you want it. Leary touched it like it was a dangerous object. It's pretty. It's practical, Mara said. Keeps it out of your face so you can see where you're running. A quick, almost invisible smile flickered across Leary's mouth and vanished. You hungry? Jace asked. We can grab breakfast before class. Leary glanced at the attendant. I didn't do anything wrong. No, Jace said. We just want to eat with you. The attendant shrugged. As long as she's back in time for roll call. Leary slipped her small hand into Mara's. The grip was light at first, then tighter. They walked through the corridors to the food tier. Morning vendors were still setting up. Jace ordered 3 bowls of spiced grain and meat strips. Leary watched steam rise from the bowls, eyes wide. We didn't get this, she said. We got mash. When there's enough. Today you get this, Mara replied. Leary ate faster than she meant to, then slowed when she caught herself. She kept glancing around, worried someone would snatch the food away. Do you always walk alone to school? Jace asked. Yes, she said. Dorm kids go early, so the halls are clear. That's what they say. Mara exchanged a look with him. A quiet, furious one. After breakfast, they walked her toward the school plaza. When students from the residential blocks started to appear, Leary shrank a little, gripping Mara's hand tighter. If someone bothers you, Mara said, you tell a teacher. Or us. You don't just take it. What if nothing changes? Leary asked. Jace rested a hand on her back. Then I make sure it does. She gave a small nod and slipped through the doors. She turned once, checking if they were still there. They were. On the ride back up, Mara exhaled slowly. She's carrying too much, she said. She's tougher than she looks, Jace answered. That doesn't mean she should have to be, Mara replied. Neither of them said the quiet truth. They were already becoming attached. The pattern formed quickly. Morning visits. Breakfast together. Walks to the plaza. Evening check-ins if Jace's shift allowed. Leary started talking more. About the noise in the dorm. About the kids who took extra food because no one stopped them. About how she always tried to be easy to ignore so staff wouldn't get annoyed. Jace and Mara listened. They didn't always have answers, but they listened. The system listened too, just in a different way. One night, Jace came home late from a bad shift. Cable jams, malfunctioning clamps, the usual near disasters. He stepped into the apartment, shoulders aching. Mara sat at the table with her work slate untouched. An official notice glowed on the screen. They flagged her, she said. Jace moved closer. The message was short, clinical. Attendance irregularity, dorm child Leary. Arrived via residential level corridor. Explanation requested. They noticed that. Jace muttered. Not the bruises. Not the bullying. Just which door she walked through. Mara rubbed her face. The system tracks movement, not harm. They went back down that evening. Leary sat on her bunk with an untouched meal tray. Her hair tie was slipping loose. She looked smaller than before. They asked me questions, she said before they even spoke. About you. About where I met you. About which hall I used. Her voice shrank. Did I make trouble? No, Mara said firmly. You didn't. They said dorm kids should use the lower gates only, Leary whispered. That I don't belong on the upper paths. Jace's hands tightened into fists, then forced themselves to relax. He crouched in front of her. You are not a problem, he said. And you didn't do anything wrong by walking with us. That night, they brought food from the night market instead of trying to drag her out again. Hot meat wraps. Sweet fruit slices. Leary ate with both hunger and caution. They said you wouldn't keep coming, she admitted quietly. That adults help once and then forget. Mara brushed a strand of hair from Leary's face. Get used to being disappointed. The system liked to teach. Mara chose different words. They're wrong, she said. We're not leaving. Leary's eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back hard. On the way home, the corridor felt narrower than usual. She's getting attached, Mara said. So are we, Jace answered. They both knew what that meant. This was no longer just about feeding a hungry kid. The line was moving toward something bigger and more dangerous. We need to decide what this is, Mara said at last. Jace had already decided. We already did, he replied. We're just catching up to it. The next morning, Mara spoke before the lift doors even closed. I talked to a coordinator last night, she said. Asked what happens when adults get involved with a dorm kid. Jace's stomach tightened. And they said if a child forms an attachment, the board can move them to a distant sector. To prevent dependency. Her voice twisted on the last word. They relocate kids for wanting someone. So if we help too much, Jace said slowly, they punish her. Not in their words, Mara said. But yes. He stared at the floor, then looked up with something like steel in his eyes. Then we do it carefully, he said. Not quietly, just carefully. They went to district administration, a building all shining metal and polished stone, designed to look efficient and impossible to argue with. Inside, a clerk pulled up Leary's file. Unassigned. No family ID. No emergency contacts. No listed relatives. Who signs off on her welfare? Mara asked. Dorm administration and education supervisors, the clerk replied. Has anyone actually checked if she's okay? Jace asked. I'm not authorized to comment on performance, the clerk said automatically. We're not asking for gossip, Mara said. We're asking how to help. The answer came in the form of a form. A preliminary involvement review, bland and threatening all at once. If they filled it out, they could be granted official contact. If they filled it out, They might also trigger relocation review. Outside the building, Mara sat heavily on the steps, slate in her lap. If we do nothing, she stays in that dorm, she said. If we do something, they might move her away from us. If we do nothing, Jace said, she keeps kneeling on floors alone. He sat beside her and opened the form. Questions about income, work hours, sleeping space, history, emotional stability. They answered all of them. Simple, direct, honest. When they met Leary at lunchtime, she looked rattled. They watched who I sat with, she said. They wrote it down. They watched when I talked to you. Jace handed her half of his own lunch without comment. Mara added a small fruit cup. I don't want you to get in trouble, Leary whispered. Maybe I should pretend I don't know you. No, Mara said, more sharply than she meant to. She softened her tone. You don't have to pretend anything. Not with us. Leary's fingers tightened around the lunch pack. Then what should I say if they ask who you are? She asked. Mara hesitated only 1 second, then answered. Tell them we're your friends. Are we? Leary asked, voice tiny. Yes, Mara said. The word felt like a promise. That afternoon, sensors above the school entrance quietly logged their presence. Algorithms flagged the pattern. A small green girl was being noticed, for the first time, and for reasons the system did not fully approve of. The notice came the next morning. Both their slates chimed with the same message. Preliminary guardianship review, mandatory meeting. Mara's hand shook when she turned the screen to Jace. They moved faster than I thought. I'm not going to work today, he said. They can live without me for 1 rotation. She can't. They stopped by the dorm before the meeting. The hall was crowded with kids lining up. Leary held her bag like a shield. A woman came this morning, she said. She asked if I felt safe. If I liked talking to you. I said yes. Her face crumpled. She looked unhappy. Did you tell her the truth? Jace asked. Yes. Then you did exactly what you should, Mara said. What if they say no? Leary asked. To whatever you're doing? Mara knelt. Then we try again. And again. And again. Leary looked between them. You won't stop. Never, Jace said. At the census hall, they were led into a cold chamber where 3 officials waited behind a curved desk. Leary's file glowed on a side display, a few lines that did not come close to describing a child. We are assessing whether your involvement is stabilizing or destabilizing, the lead official said. She smiles more, Mara replied. She eats better. She sleeps with a jacket instead of shaking in a corner. How is that destabilizing? She has shown increased attachment, another official said. Heightened anxiety when questioned. That's what happens when you give a starving kid food and then wave it in front of her again, Jace answered, struggling to keep his voice level. She's terrified this will be taken. There was a pause. Finally, the lead official said, we will allow the guardianship procedure to proceed, with 1 condition. Mara's shoulders tensed. What condition? A formal bond mark ritual, the official replied. At the census registry. The child must consent. If the seal completes, the registry will recognize guardianship. When? Jace asked. Today. Mara did not hesitate. We agree. Bring the child after class, the official said. We'll prepare the chamber. Outside, in the quieter hall, Mara leaned back against the wall, exhaling like she'd been punched. They actually gave us a path, she said. It's not guaranteed, Jace replied. But it's real. Do we tell her now? Mara asked. After school, he said. So she doesn't spend every minute shaking. They both knew she would probably shake anyway. They waited at the plaza as the final tone rang. Students spilled out, laughing, shouting, swirling around each other like a river. Leary slipped out near the end, alone as always, clutching her bag so tightly her knuckles were pale. You're here, she said, almost in disbelief. We have something to tell you, Mara said softly. Jace knelt, so their eyes were level. The board wants to do a bond mark ritual, he said. If it completes, the registry says you're ours. And we're yours. Leary blinked several times. You mean, like family? She whispered. Yes, Mara said. If you want that. Leary's breath hitched. They told me people don't keep kids like me. They're wrong, Jace said. Her eyes shone wet. She pressed her fists against her mouth for a second, holding back a sob. I want it, she said. The ritual chamber in the census hall was small and quiet. No windows. Just a pedestal in the center and a faint blue glow from thin light strips. On the pedestal lay a narrow silver band. The registrar stood beside it, expression soft in a way the administrators had never been. "Step forward, Leary," she said. Leary's hands shook, but she walked to the pedestal. Jace stood on her right, Mara on her left. "This bond mark," the registrar said, "records who stands with you. Once sealed, it updates every system on the ring. Dorms, schools, medical. You won't be unassigned again." She lifted the band. "Leary," the registrar asked gently, "do you accept Jace, Orlon, and Mara Vesh as your guardians?" Leary looked up at them. For a heartbeat, Jace saw her as she had been on that first day, kneeling on cold tile, surrounded by polished boots, convinced no one would ever choose her. Now, there were arms on either side of her instead. "Yes," she whispered. "I do." The band closed around her wrist with a soft click. Light flared along the metal, then settled into a warm glow. On the hovering display, new text appeared. Orlon, Jace, Guardian. VSH, Mara, Guardian. Orlon, Leary, Dependent. Leary stared at the new name beside hers. Something in her posture broke and rebuilt at the same time. She turned and threw her arms around both of them, clinging so tightly it almost hurt. "You're ours now," Jace said quietly. "You're mine too," she whispered. That night, when they opened the door to their apartment, Leary stepped in first. Nothing vanished. No one shoved her aside. No alarm sounded. Mara set warm bread and stew on the table. Jace rolled out a sleeping mat beside their bed. "For me?" Leary asked. "For tonight," Mara said. "Tomorrow we start building your room." "I've never had a room," Leary murmured, fingers digging into the blanket. "You do now," Jace replied. She lay down, eyes already heavy, the silver band on her wrist faintly glowing in the dim light. "Will you be here when I wake up?" she asked. "Every morning," Mara said. Leary's breathing slowed. For the first time in her life, she fell asleep knowing exactly who would be there when she opened her eyes again. Outside the window, the gas giant swirled slowly beneath Vastal Ring, storms boiling in silent color. Inside one small apartment, a human promise held stronger than any regulation. No more dorm corners. No more tile floors. No more being no one's problem. HFY. Humanity, stepping in when no one else would.